Alrighty, so I'm actually recording this voiceover after the fact because the first one didn't come out too well, and I'm just going to be doing this over the gameplay. But basically, what we're talking about in this episode is we are talking about eating healthy. So, eating healthy, very important. They always tell you that. And eating healthy, another one of those things that's really mismarketed. First off, why would you call it eating healthy? Like, I mean, I know that's the words we used for it, but why did we come up with that? Like, no one who's like actually young, when you're actually building habits, actually cares about being healthy. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna die of a heart attack until I'm like 65, man. It's like 12 lifetimes away from me now. So, who even cares about that? Now, let's get into actually how you go about doing it. So, how do you eat healthy? So, eating healthy, first things first, if you live in the United States of America, do not trust the government on how to eat healthy. They have been bribed by like candy companies, bread companies, all sorts of other things to like throw up this random crap that doesn't work. Like this whole food pyramid thing. That's like, it's so far off base. I can't even explain. Like, it's so far off base. It's like, a lot of experts are saying it's pretty much the exact opposite of what you should do. Very, very bad. You need to come to your own conclusions on this. And basically, what you got to do is you got to find something here that works for you, because eating is not something that is cookie cutter like that, like they want to make it out to be. There are things that'll work for more people than others, but seriously, you can't just do a one fit all thing because people have varying genetics. People have varying diseases that they have to accommodate. People have varying allergies, all this sorts of stuff. And then people have varying palates. They don't all like the same things. So, what we're really going to be talking about here is how to find the foods that work for you and then really where to go from there. So first things first, I will say is we eat way too much sugar. That's just a fact. I mean, it's basically like this little drug that we give to kids and we're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Kids can have sugar." I mean, we can't give them cocaine, but sugar's all right, even though cocaine would probably be less bad. But with that, I would recommend first things first, that be the first thing that you try to cut out is really reduce the sugar. But what you're trying to do here is you're trying to shift your diet to something that you actually like. So you don't actually have to have sugar in your foods for it to be something you like. And also here, when I'm saying sugar, it's very important that you understand what I mean. So there are like artificial sweeteners. That's what I'm talking about. Any sugar that's added after the fact, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about fructose that's in the apple you're eating. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead, do that. But you don't want this added sugar, this added corn syrup. You don't want, and then you also don't want the natural sugars that come in like an apple juice, because the way your body digests it is too fast and it really hurts it. It's really hard on like your kidney, your liver, all that sort of stuff. And then it's just really hard on your body, period. Because you're digesting it too fast compared to the other stuff where you'll eat it, it'll taste really good. And then if your body doesn't actually need it, like if you ate like 6 apples or something, it doesn't actually need all that fructose. It's just going to get rid of it. So that's a starting point there. The next point that you need to know is macros. So there are three major macros. So first off, carbs. Carbs are basically like a fast energy source, so they'll make you stronger for a little bit until your body kind of runs out of it, and you need to refuel on that to keep them up. Or there's actually some diets that go complete without that. That's like what keto is, and those can work perfectly fine as long as you're doing them right. But basically, all you need to know is carbs is a fast energy source. Protein is an energy source, and then it also helps build. So if you're trying to build muscle, that sort of stuff, that's what protein is for. And then you have fats, which are mostly for repair. Now, obviously, all these have other functions than what I'm saying here. You know, I'm not like a nutrition expert, but that's the basics of what you need to know. So between those three, the ones that really get a bad rap are fats. Fats generally What they do when they make a low fat food is they actually take the good fats out of it and they just go, yeah, this is low fats. And then what they do is they throw 15 grams of sugar in it to make it taste better. Fats taste really good. That's why things that you douse in a ton of butter, they taste really good. Do not worry about fats like they tell you to. What you do need to worry about is not getting the right ratio here. So what you're trying to do is, depending on whatever diet you're doing, you're trying for a different ratio here normally. But what you're trying to do is get it pretty even, generally, with most diets. And then you're just trying to keep the number low if you're trying to get your weight down. So you try and keep those macros even, pretty close together. And then you're trying to get the calories you're taking in lower than the amount of calories you're expending if you're trying to lose weight. So that's calories in, calories out. It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. It's the calories you digest versus calories out. So that's an important thing to look at there. So if you're trying to gain weight, you just got to eat more calories than you're trying to get out there. But basically, the ratio is important there with the macros because it determines how much of the food that you're bringing in is actually useful to your body and how much of it isn't. If a lot of that food isn't useful to it, like if you're packing on like 90% carbs, you don't actually need 90% carbs. It doesn't have much to really do with that. It doesn't have much to build with that. So it's just going to do what it does best and convert it into fat and store it for when it does need that. So here's what you do is you go ahead and you can download this app called Chronometer. This app is great. Love it. It's free. And what you do is you just add the foods you eat into it. So you can just add them like a list and then it automatically pulls up what it thinks approximately are the calories of it. It's never going to be exactly accurate on this because it's not an exact science with any of this food stuff. But basically it'll tell you it's this much protein, it's this much fat, it's this much carbs, what you just ate. And then it'll tell you at the end of the day, when you're signing up, you tell it, I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to gain weight. And then it tries to, it like assumes how many calories you're spending a day, which is oftentimes not accurate, but it's like a good place to start. And then it tries to give you little calorie goals. So it'll go, like 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat, which would be a pretty optimal build for if you're trying to build muscle. Not if you're trying to like lose weight, all that stuff. You can look into this stuff more, but because I'm not an expert on any of the specific builds here with the macronutrients. But basically, you'll tell it all that stuff when you're logging in, and it'll just tell you what you're really aiming for here. So it'll go, you're looking for this percentage of macros. This is the amount of grams for those macros that you need to get. This is the amount of calories for those macros you need to get. And as you add foods in, it'll like tick up the bar. So you'll be able to see how much of it is already done that you got through with. And as you get through the day, you may see, oh, I'm up to 90% carbs, but I'm only up at 20% protein. So I need to eat some things that are higher protein now. That sort of stuff. And then also what it does is the last part that's really important to eating healthy here is the micronutrients. So this would be the things that are like, say, vitamin C, your amino acids, all that type of stuff is a micronutrient. And they're basically just like the further breakdowns of each of those macros. But micronutrients can be very important to a lot of things. And each one has their own thing that they're important for. But Chronometer also tracks those. Nice for you. So you can go and eat your food for one day, and then at the end of the day, you're going to see, wow, I'm not getting enough vitamin K, or I'm not getting enough of this certain amino acid, or I'm not getting enough of this or that. And what you do is you go ahead and you pull that specific thing, that one thing that it's telling you need more of. You go type into Google or whatever search engine you use, and you say, foods high in blankety blank, whatever that is. And then you go through that list and you see which foods you like. And you take those. And then that circles all around back to, you gotta be doing something here and eating the foods that you actually like. If you're eating a diet that, like, it's unbearable for you, like you hate it so much, you're eventually going to stop eating those types of foods. You'll stop eating that amount, and then you'll go right back to where you were before. So what you're looking to do is just change up your habits to something that you like doing and that's better for you. So you don't want to eat things that you just hate all the time, and you don't want to eat things that just, they're not within your palate. Like fish could be really good for you. I don't like fish, so I don't want to put fish in my diet. I want to eat something else. And you can get there in a whole bunch of ways to get where you're trying to go. Don't let someone else dictate what type of food you have to eat. They'll go, this is a superfood, that's a superfood, ba 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 ba. Well, that may be true. You don't have to eat that. You can go about this in 100,000 different ways. It's not that complicated, and you can build it to be right for you. You just want it to be sustainable in the end, because otherwise what happens is you might go on a diet for a while if you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to gain weight, and you'll get to the point where you want to be at. So you'll have lost that amount of weight, gained that amount of weight that you wanted to, and then you'll go back to what you were doing before because it's unsustainable. And then your body also reverts back to the way it was before. So you'll start gaining the weight back if you didn't want to gain weight, and you'll start losing the weight if you were trying to gain weight. And it becomes a really bad thing. Also with this, here's something that's very important, is once you've already gained the weight, it is significantly harder to permanently get off the weight. So say, you're a good 300 pounds, you're pretty overweight, you got a lot of fat on you. It's going to be basically permanently easier for you to gain that weight back. So you're going to have to, fight against that a little bit harder on that end. If you were very skinny before, it's going to be much harder for you to gain weight than someone who had that weight on. If you were very muscular at one point and then you just don't have muscle anymore, maybe you got kind of chunky, maybe you're just really skinny now, it's going to be easier for you to gain muscle. And that goes for like about 10 years. It's like the same amount of time as it takes for like smoking to repair. Or you can get certain surgeries to actually help with that nowadays, but that's like a very far off thing to go for. So that's if you're like really extreme out there. If you're like a 600-pound life person, that would be an option. But there are those options nowadays. And really what you want to aim for is, say you want to have muscular type build, is just stay in there for as long as possible on a diet that you like, because the longer you stay in that range, it's actually going to help you out more with being habitually in that range. Because even if you went from 300 pounds to 150, let's say you got like pretty decently skinny there, that 1 month that you're at 150 pounds, your body's getting used to that, and it's going to be easier to be 150 pounds for you after that. Doing it the first time, always the hardest. You gain back 10 pounds, don't really worry about it, just get back on it and then lose the 10 pounds again. Not a big deal, because it's going to be easier now that you already did it. Same thing goes for building muscle, same thing goes for gaining weight. All over the place. That's just how it works, how your body functions. And then other important things. So there are fad diets out there that you have to watch for. Veganism is the big one. That's the really big fad one. Now, vegans, the whole reason they do it is for the whole animals thing. But the issue with veganism is you can't get all your micronutrients from it. It's not actually possible, because certain ones you can only really find in meat. We don't actually like synthesize those from plants. And so what they'll do is they'll get supplements. So supplements are these little pills, your vitamins. Those are supplements. And they'll take those and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll be fine. That's not exactly how that works, because your body doesn't digest them very well. So it doesn't seem to work very well in the long run. It may work for a bit. If you go on be vegan for 3 months, it probably won't see any change. You'll probably be perfectly fine. But if you do it for 10 years, you're probably going to start seeing some issues pop up. It's just not sustainable. You need at least a little bit of meat in there, or a little bit of eggs. You don't actually need to eat any animals for this to be fine. You can go out with vegetarianism, and that's perfectly fine. We've just seen so far that our supplements just aren't up to par for being a substitute. And that's why they're called supplements. They are short for supplementary, as in addition to you can't just do those as your only thing. That ain't gonna work for you. And that's also another really important point for anyone who is trying to do that with just anything. So if you know that you don't go outside, you're a cave dweller, I'm gonna eat my vitamin D pills all day and I'll be perfectly fine. That's not how that works, man. That's gonna be bad for you. I would highly recommend you try and get it from food. Now, it does work as being a supplementary, addition. You're getting only 80% of what you need from foods and from the sun for that vitamin D, and you need just a little bit more, so you add some on with a supplement. That's probably going to work, but it's supplementary. So you just got to keep that in mind. And then when you're doing this, find that diet that works for you and find whatever works for you. So that's going to be all for this video. Hope you liked it, and make sure to subscribe for more.